Welcome to the Firebelly Social Show. We're focused on talking to food and beverage brands that are on a mission to make the world better.
Hey, everyone. Duncan here with another episode of the Firebelly Social Show, where we normally chat with founders and leaders of mission-driven food and beverage brands. Thank you for tuning in to this latest episode of the Firebelly Social Show. We're going to do something different today, and this episode is brought to you by Firebelly Marketing. At Firebelly, we help mission-based food and beverage brands bring people closer together through social media marketing. So, if you're ready to use social media marketing to get more community, get some excitement, get some retail velocity around your food or beverage brand, go to firebellymarketing.com to learn more. And today we got something very special going on. We have Dr. Wise here of Rise 25, who is not only a great friend and a genius and a world-renowned podcaster, but he also is our podcast producer. And he's done literally thousands of interviews with successful entrepreneurs and CEOs, and we have flipped the script, and he's going to be interviewing me today. What up, Dr. Wise?
It's an honor and a pleasure. Thanks for having me. I always come to you, Duncan, for suggestions, new brands, products I should be checking out. So I figured we'd start the conversation with some of the brands you love and what you like about them. And especially because I'm into various healthy foods and different foods. So I'd love to hear from you. What are some of your favorites out there?
I mean, there's a lot of brands that I'm super excited about at the moment. One of them is Revolution Apothecary, which is a high-end, just a delicious THC beverage. So it's technically non-alcohol, or you call it an alternate beverage, a beautiful bottle, just an amazing product. I'm also really excited about UJ Soft Granola, which is another amazing brand. Our founder's name is Manuela. She's an amazing woman, and her and her husband are doing great things. I'm always
UJ. It's like YU and then the letter J. I'm seeing it here.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
it's an exceptional brand.
Oh, this is cool. Yeah.
And Sucker Punch. Sucker Punch is a little shot that you can take in the morning before your workout, Dr. Wise. I know you like to work out. And the beautiful thing about UJ is there's almost no allergens. And so it's really healthy, easy to eat. We've got some proteins in it. I love me some Amrita bars, so that's another one that I really love getting into. And of course, Seed Ranch is David Delcourt's company. Those are some of the brands that I'm paying attention to at the moment.
Sucker Punch. Is that like a pickle juice?
It is a pickle juice. Yes, it's electrolytes, and they have different flavors. And I'm that guy. I'm that guy that loves pickle juice even more than the pickles. I started putting pickle juice in margaritas. I take shots of pickle juice out of the pickle juice jar. So yeah, it's pickle juice, and they're great people. Super, super cool product.
I'm going to pull that up in a second, but I know you do interviews of the Sweets and Snacks show among some of the top, brands in the world. I'm wondering what trends you saw there. I remember going there. At one point, maybe it was a couple of years ago, I felt like there was like a pickle revolution. Like there was just a lot of different things, whether it's pickled chips or juice or whatever. So I'm curious what trends you're seeing, whether it's at Sweets and Snacks or in general.
I mean, so I went to Expo actually for the first time this year, and in California at the end of March and early April. But then we went to Sweets and Snacks, which you introduced me to Sweets and Snacks. So always happy about that. But here's the thing. Dairy is making a huge unapologetic comeback. So there's less, you're seeing so many more like dairy-based companies with chocolate or ice cream or different things like that, just like unabashedly. Also, I think we're seeing a lot cleaner meat products. So There's so many great, meat sticks. New Primal is one of them that does a great job. They were one of the first ones to do it. I think, even though sugar is sort of like contentious, especially with everything going on with Maha and all of that, but you're still seeing a lot of really cleaner sugar products. I'll say this, that there's still more better for you sparkling sodas that are coming out, but I really don't think we need any more of those. We really need less of those, and we need to get into more of the I think just sort of like genuine good positioning, genuine brand, and a sincere need that the brand can then generate. We need those kinds of drinks. We don't just need these Me Too sodas, and okay, there are still a lot of mushroom-based products coming out. So yeah, I think that the ones that caught my eye, and maybe I'm biased because I love family stories, is a one where it's a family-led brand. So I mean, the ultimate story, of course, is still Siete, which, a family-owned brand, a Mexican-American family, sold to Pepsi for 2 billion, and they
I
go
didn't
to,
know that. Okay.
yeah. So, I mean, I think that, those are some of the trends I noticed.
This one here.
That's right.
Yeah. It's just super interesting to see the pickle juice, and I'm interested in it's almost like a byproduct. I find it interesting, like these byproducts become the product, right? If you look at, obviously the juice is just like usually thrown out, right? And now they're selling a gallon here of pickle juice, classic dill. And are there any of those, I don't know even what you want to call it. The byproduct is the product. One product I think of is regrained, where it was spent grain from beer, and they were picking it up and they'd make granola bars out of it. And so it's just interesting to see the byproduct becomes a product. Even with I think it was charcoal also. Like they were just throwing the stuff out, and it's just like an opportunity, I guess you could say here. It's like, who would have thought people are buying shots of pickle juice, and that is the product, you know?
No, and in fact, I think you and I might have come across Regrained at the same time, and Daniel Kurzrock might have been on both our podcasts, but he's one of the kind of founding like fathers of the upcycling movement, and
Upcycling, thank you. I was
upcycling.
like trying
Yeah.
to think of the word, but yeah.
Yeah, the Upcycle Food Association is doing a lot of really cool work. I pay attention to that. I also pay attention to the regenerative movement, and some of the products in there. Charcut Nouveau, if you haven't had their meats, I mean, it's seriously clean meat, all regenerative farming practices. And the other one is Roots potato chips. Phenomenal potato chips from Lad Wallen and his family that are actually following all like the principles of regenerative farming. And yeah, so those are some of the ones that are on my radar at the moment.
Who knew there was an upcycled food association?
That's right. The Upcycle Food
Wow,
Association,
that's cool.
they're doing super cool things.
That is, I love that. So those are some of the brands I know you're like, some of the trends you see. I'd like to just talk through a little bit of how you think about branding. And I'd like to kind of take opposite ends of the spectrum here for a second, which is like, I know there's an egg brand. I know we don't really think of brands as egg brands, but I'll let you talk about that, and then we'll talk about whiskey. Maybe start with the egg. I find that fascinating.
Yeah, I got a question for you though. How many eggs do you eat?
I was eating like 10 a day, and then I realized I had like an issue with yolk, and so I basically eat egg whites.
Yeah,
So
got it, got
I
it.
eat a lot of egg whites.
So it's interesting, you asked a question about eggs, and I love the brand Kipster, and full disclosure, they're one of our clients, and really think it's funny. Their tagline is the farm that gives a cluck, and basically it's the first carbon neutral egg. They really care about the food revolution, and a compassionate approach to farming and the way they treat the chickens, and the chickens look very healthy. Of course, you're still talking about chickens at scale, and getting eggs at scale. But I mean, you're talking about 25,000 chickens at a time instead of several hundred thousand chickens at a time. So, these are chickens that are allowed to walk around. They have a much, I mean, of course, at the end of the day, the chickens have a limited life cycle, once their egg producing capabilities are over. But even with that, they're working with restaurants, and other places to give the meat there so that they can actually use the meat and it isn't all for nothing. So that's a brand that I'm very fond of.
What have you learned about working with Kipster that maybe you didn't know otherwise?
I mean, so it's an interesting story because I think, there's a lot of I'll say it as sort of like kindly as I can, that there's a lot of mixed messaging and unproven claims in the egg space. There's a lot of times when people, when the companies say that these are free range, they're not. And they make very ambiguous, hard to prove comments on the boxes.
Yeah.
So I think
Like
that
what? What would be an example? Because
um
people have grown. I always see these labels, and I'm not just saying talking about eggs, but I'm seeing like you see organic and whatever. And I was just having a conversation with someone the other day, and they bought organic avocados, and I'm thinking, well, they have like really. I'm not eating the peel of it, so does it really matter if I'm buying organic avocados? Maybe it does. I don't know, but I'm curious. What do you like? What are some of the ambiguous branding people are putting on these packages?
I mean, you hear things about, certain eggs being healthier as opposed to certain eggs being more efficient to produce in terms of how the chickens lay and how the chickens grow. Eggs are bad for cholesterol. Refrigerating eggs is unnecessary. White eggs are bleached. I mean, you just hear, all these things. And similarly, I think, without going into any details, there are companies that make claims about their eggs that they can't actually back up. So I think I'll leave it at that. But I think the other thing that Kipster does is they have a technology where they can tell the gender of the egg before it is hatched. And so, as opposed to male, baby chickens or chicklet, I don't know what the right word is for baby chickens, but instead of them being just culled at birth in a very inhumane way, they just don't let the egg hatch. And so that is something that has really, I mean, it's crazy that the World Wildlife Federation, Greenpeace, these are all very like advocacy oriented organizations who typically don't like any egg company, and they all love Kipster. So that's been really great for our team and for me to be able to work with a truly like hardcore mission driven company like that. Funny story is all the founders have become vegetarians after being involved with this type of work. And they
Wow.
said like, hey, warning, you spend too much time in this industry, you will probably become a vegetarian. So
This should be about the truth about eggs. Because what is the consensus around like refrigerating eggs? I remember when I went to Spain, they don't keep the eggs in the refrigerator, they keep them on the shelf. So what are some of the truth about eggs that you've learned?
the truth about eggs is that the average American, I think, consumes something like 160 eggs a year. Meanwhile, in our family, I think it's over between my wife and I over probably 1,200 eggs a year.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
when I was eating like 5 to 10 eggs a day, yeah, do the math on that.
I mean, the other thing is that eggs can become boring, which is complete bullshit. I mean, like eggs are never boring. You can do so many things with eggs. There is truth about the color of the chicken and the quote unquote efficiency of that chicken. So that is a true thing. And they're the only carbon neutral company. I mean, it's everything from where is the food for these chickens coming from, and they're upcycling food. So the food is coming from bakeries and other places like that where there's food waste. They're upcycling that food so that the chickens are not taking away human food, and it's better for the environment.
I'll take the form of eggs with these soft peanut butter cookies. If you're watching the video here, or we're looking at Kipster's website, kipster.farm, and these looks like some pretty delicious items here. I remember watching, there was some video online, and really what we eat, what the food that we eat, is really affected by the food that whether it's a chicken or beef or whatever, what they eat. And they fed, I think in this video, there's this one farm. It was like a farm to table. They were serving like restaurants, feeding these chickens like green peppers or no, sorry, red peppers. And then the yolks were all red, came out all red. So it definitely, whatever the chickens are eating definitely affects the makeup of the actual eggs as well,
Yeah, that is another misnomer that darker eggs indicate that it's a higher quality. It's actually in this sort of like obsession with eggs. I have been eating a lot of eggs from from the farmers market basically, just to see what the contrast is. And a lot of the eggs are lighter colored. It tastes great. Some eggs are smaller, some eggs are bigger. And it's actually, I know this is crazy and maybe I've eaten too many eggs, but you can actually tell uh, very minor variations in taste as well. So.
I'm curious, what kind of things do you do with a brand like Kipster? I know they're in a lot of retail as well. Kroger is some of the largest supermarkets around. Tell us about what you do with them.
So, I mean, that's a great question. I mean, Firebelly is focused on food and beverage brands. And so, one of the core things we have to do across all the different ways that we do it is we've got to tell the story of the brand. So we have to really communicate who that brand is, what sets them apart, why are they unique, what are the things that make them who they are, so it really is an immersive story. And with social, you can't ever tell like a big story all at one time. So you're telling pieces of the story in kind of a mosaic, right? So that's the core, the foundation of it. Then that manifests into organic social media marketing. So whether it's like Instagram or Meta or TikTok, you're telling bits of that story organically on the channels that the company or the brand owns, right? And then there's paid, and that's where you're disrupting people with information about something that they are likely to be interested in. So you're building a funnel, and the funnel applies to everything, but you're building a funnel on ads, where you're getting the brand in front of new people. You're getting people that have been exposed to the brand to now, engage with the brand, whether it's a comment or watching a video or something like that. And then it could be the next thing could be, making sure that there's enough content to tell these stories and not just brand content, which is, tends to be slightly controlled, but, you have content that of the brand in the studio, content of the brand, by the pool, content of the brand being prepared. So it could be like, one of our clients is a heritage pork farmer, and, it could be a pork chop being prepared in a kitchen, or we could be working with creators and saying, hey, we want to see the brand in the wild, so we're working with identifying creators and like getting them to produce content for our clients. And it could also be where it's a little bit more creative, where we're putting spend behind the creators' accounts to get that content in front of more people. So and then we do email as well to support social, and so you're reminding people of who the brand is, getting them to reconnect, giving them offers. But a lot of this stuff is, all really great, and you kind of have to do it. But the piece that there's a lot of misperception about is that retail or direct to commerce are the only options. It's like, oh, you sell it on your website or you go to a retail store, right? That's not true. There are so many other channels that brands get distributed in. The smaller brands will be in farmers markets. Even when they get bigger, they continue going to the farmers markets. Food service is a big thing. Hospitality is a big thing. So anything, our client Karma Nuts is now on, United.
That's huge.
Yeah, United. They serve Karma Nuts in business class and first class on the airlines. They've been in VIP boxes at the academies. Then there's colleges and universities, large corporate campuses. So there's all these other kind of like options. But bringing it back to your question, if it's in retail, then what we have to try to do is either with ads geo-targeted around those locations or getting creators mobilized around those locations, and also on the actual brands channels showing someone running into the store, and I mean there's videos of me running into stores to get my favorite products, or clients' products. So those are kind of the ways that you're pushing. Now, with direct to commerce, it's easy to measure because you can say, okay, how many people did I get in front of? How many people engaged, how many people clicked through, how many people bought something, what was their journey through the site? Or even like if we're sending referral traffic to Amazon, we can, to a limited degree, track a lot of this stuff. With retail, unfortunately, unless you're a super big brand that's tied in with one of the major partners of Kroger or something like that, which there's only a few really brands like that, relatively speaking, that they get in-store data. Most brands, they get sales data, but they're not getting, layered rich data on those kinds of situations. So it's really like all about supporting the brand.
I love how that's a lot of gold there, Duncan, because it's very creative. It's not something I really thought of, but if you think of getting on airlines or these VIP boxes, like that's a huge brand awareness to very, I guess a wealthier clientele in general, stereotypically. And I discover stuff on airplanes all the time, like, oh, this is really good. And then I'll go and start buying it at the store and tell other people about it. So it's just obviously it's almost like paid, customer acquisition in a
Yeah.
sense.
And you and I were talking recently about the Food Bevy box, which is it's the insider's box from Food Bevy, foodbevy.com, which is Jordan Buckner's organization where he supports emerging brands. I mean, and that's all they do. And man, that box was so fun. I didn't know any of the brands. And I've still got some of the brands in that box, like waiting for little treats for me to have. So I mean, I think that those boxes, they're introducing the brand to people that the brand would never have gotten in front of, and B, they're being curated very carefully, so that they fit together, they're not competing with each other, and it comes together for an experience. And I think the Food Bevy box is $60, but or
Here it is.
$70, but I swear to God, you get way more value than what's in there. And look at there's Mark Samuel's new kettle chip on there. Shout out to Mark Samuel. So that's pretty awesome. But David Barr, June, I mean,
Yum.
June is a client that a company we love. They're using a 300-year-old recipe for pistachios. So that's super cool that it's going to be in the next box.
And I know you have something else going on, so I don't know if we have time for the whiskey brand. If we don't, that's cool. If we do, I'd love to hear about it.
No, that's a great question. I mean, Filmland Spirits is the name of the brand. I mean, it is a premium, ultra premium whiskey, depending on which one of the SKUs you buy. It is a really cool brand that has used, old Hollywood kind of B level science fiction films as a jumping off point. The bottles are beautifully designed. There's an inspiration from film even in the bottle. They have this kind of Hollywood vibe about everything they do. And I think that they've developed I mean, first of all, it's a very, very difficult story to tell. And we worked very closely with the brand to figure out how to extend their vision and voice into social. And then, how do you keep that kind of content going on an ongoing basis? So it's a combination, of ads to move sales in a space that is essentially down right now. Whiskey is down, significantly down. But brands like Filmland are staying relevant because, they're constantly introducing new limited runs so that they can see how their customers respond when the limited run is sold out, multiple times. They might add it to their list of ongoing SKUs. Then they show the product being used, people that love whiskey drinking it, and why do they drink it? They show the product in play, and then they keep the story going too. Yeah, so Troy and Charlie, I should say, yeah, Troy and Charlie are the founders, and then there's a small team around there too.
I'd love to just thanks for that. It's just interesting from eggs to whiskey, and especially it's interesting because with the eggs piece, like if you ask someone, what kind of eggs do you buy? What brand eggs? Like there's no necessarily brand loyalty. So building up a brand in the egg space is very interesting. I just love to hear some of your favorite episodes of your show so people can check out more. Obviously, we're looking at firebellymarketing.com and we're on the podcast page. What are some of the memorable ones in your world episodes on your show?
I mean, there's some people I speak to kind of on an ongoing basis. They're returnees to the show, but I mean, you just scroll past one, which is Belle Sharon from Bell's Popcorn. I mean, that I love that brand. They're just she's a chemist by trade and just has done amazing innovation. Won three out of the top eight awards in innovation at the Sweets and Snacks show. Dubai Chocolate. I mean, I heard a couple of bigger brands sitting behind me when they won that award, and they were like, I don't know how they innovate so quickly. So that's a really, Mike Levinson is an interesting one because he talks about alternative channels. I really love Toast. Brooks Addington has been on the podcast a couple of times. I love Toast because they were doing NA before there was NA, so they spent a lot of time he and his wife spent a lot of time in Asia, seeing that social opportunities don't exist for people who don't drink, and so can we be inclusive and can we bring a very high quality beverage that for all practical purposes feels like alcoholic beverage, but in fact has no alcohol in it.
Yeah. The non-alcoholic category, do you feel is growing a lot?
Yeah, it's growing like crazy. I mean, in fact, that one of the brands I mentioned earlier, Revolution Apothecary, is a great non-alcoholic brand. Yeah, so those are some of the things that have been. I did an episode with Anna Eisen. She's a brilliant designer in the CPG space. So there's Laura Silverman and Ian Blessing who have a collaboration. Laura Silverman is sort of ground zero and at the heart of everything that's going on with NA. Eric Martindale, who is a common friend of yours and mine, Elite Commerce Group, is kind of the master of retail media and Amazon. Jay Williams has been from Freebird, has been part of a webinar that became a podcast, but he hasn't come on the show to do a dedicated episode. But I love what he's doing with Freebird. Really interesting to see someone build such a brand that is aimed at an underserved audience, essentially. So he's taking, the liquid death model of building a brand, but it's a very different, this is an audience that is sort of like, red, white, and blue, they're everyday people, who want to drink a branded water, and which comes from, spring water from Georgia. So, I mean, yeah, those are some of my favorites recently.
Awesome. And so I just want to point people, obviously, you can check out more at firebellymarketing.com or firebellymarketing.com/podcast, or any final words on your end before we wrap.
No, it's been an amazing episode, and thank you so much for your support over the years and helping make my podcast so successful. 180 plus episodes. Did you know, to the audience, of course, Dr. J, but did you know that most podcasts fail within 4 or 5 episodes? 90% of podcasts fail within the first few episodes, and the 10% that survive, an additional 50% or more of those will collapse after the first year. So in our 5th year, truly exceptional, and I love doing it. And why do I do it? I do it because I really believe in the food and beverage space and brands that have a mission. And, I really advocate for the founders. It's like I give them a space for them to be able to talk about what is exciting to them and also what's important to them from a health standpoint. Are they sleeping enough? Do they drink enough water? Are they taking sucker punch? Are they working out? What do they do for fun? I remember that one of the founders of Libby Wines was saying he loves dirt therapy, which I'd never heard of before, and he goes works in the garden. So for me, the podcast is a way to give back to this industry.
Yeah. So if there is a brand that you love out there and you're listening, tell Duncan and make some suggestions because he's always looking for suggestions of more great guests and brands. So, Duncan, thanks for having me.
Amazing. Dr. J, Jeremy Wise, everyone, runs a company that helps people get their podcasts out there and has an amazing set of clients and does great work. What an amazing conversation. Thank you for flipping the script. And really happy about that. And then I wanted to also just say that thank you for listening to the Firebelly social show where we focus on mission-driven brands and their leaders and people who are shaping the future of food and beverage. So if you want to hear more about this, go to firebellymarketing.com and see all the different ways we're helping people and the different clients we work with. And thanks for tuning in. Thank you, Dr. Wise, Dr. Jeremy Wise, Dr. J. Until next time, keep crushing it, keep innovating, and as always, keep that fire in your belly burning bright. Catch you on the next one.
Thanks for listening to the Firebelly Social Show. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.